Thanks to the supporters of channel member Tyler Huffman. Well, we all know, folks, that the plan for this season is to try and win the Champions League at the first time of asking. Today, we face some proper opposition in it for the first time and probably get an idea of if that's actually a realistic goal or not. That proper opposition being away against AC Milan and then at home against Bayern Munich. I think after those two games, we'll have a very good idea of if we're good enough to win the Champions League. As it stands, 10 games into the Premier League, we're 7 points off the pace when it comes to a title race because we've had a little bit of a wobble, and it's a little bit of a wobble that's entirely self-inflicted and directly related to the Champions League. We weren't able to register everybody in the Champions League squad, which has led to some grumpy boys, which in turn led to a little bit of a player mutiny, led by Mertens, which was a disaster. As you can see, I have just about calmed everybody down now. Ramiro Herrera might still be on his way out of the club potentially, but Mertens is happy again, and that's the important thing. Is he proper happy? Yeah, no negatives. He's proper happy again. So that's quite important. But we did have a little bit of a wobble for a few matches. Weirdly, the thing that solved the wobble was selling Milos Lukic. This was the player that Mertens was most upset about. Really wanted me to play this guy who would have played ahead of him. I'm like, well, no, I don't really want to play that guy who would play ahead of you, you silly wombat. So we've got rid of him, and we've got a new left winger coming in as a squad. I mean, look at him. He's a replacement in the squad. There's players we're probably going to have to get rid of. The likes of Girelli. As much as I like him, he's a backup. He's going to be the backup to the backup in both the positions that he can play. We don't need that many Belgians, so we might be letting him go. We'll see. We're not doing transfers today. We're just pondering the future. We have played a few Champions League games to kick things off, though. We beat Malmo 5-0 and then drew away against Galatasaray and Fenerbahce. I don't know why we had to have 2 trips to Turkey. That seems a little bit excessive, but we didn't get any wins while we were there. So 3 games in, we're mid-table and do need to put in a decent performance against Milan, a Milan team that are 5th in Serie A. I don't know how they've been getting on over the last 20 years or so. Obviously, we've seen from the Premier League that lots can change. Milan are quite good. They've been quite good for quite a long time. If anything, maybe they're just having a little bit of a decline over the last 3 or 4 years. We might be catching them at just the right time, but I guess we'll find out. This is the team we're sending to Italy, and we do have a couple of injury issues, most notably Drazic, our big, expensive, fancy goalkeeper, has got a calf strain, so he's going to be missing, which means we don't have a goalkeeper on the bench. We actually only have 6 players off the bench because of all these players that we weren't able to register in the squad. It's fine. I have promised most of them that they'll be in the squad from January, so we might have to sell a few more yet and maybe bring in some. I can't remember what they're called. There's a word for them. It's on the tip of my tongue. English players. We might have to bring in some English players in January just to fill out the squad a little bit. We'll see, though. I don't really want any of them lot ruining our good vibes that we've got. There's not a single English player in the squad. That probably does need dealing with. So this is, where are our youth players, by the way? The youth setup here is absolute bobbins. This would all be a lot easier if we had anything better than average youth facilities for a team that should be in League 1, League 2. This is why we've got no youth players, because we've got a League 2 academy, which is producing League 2 players, which aren't really ideal for us. So this is the team. It's Glisovic in goal, a back four of Lee, Vidal Santos, Shearlink and Delos Santos, Coppens and Mialescu in midfield, Esqueda, Mertens and Yang behind Cost up front. We do have a situation where not only do we have 2 different Santoses in the back four, we sometimes have double Coppin in midfield because we've got Coppens, but then we've also got Coppin. I need to get better at my squad building, not just in terms of maybe having the odd homegrown player here or there, but also making sure that we don't have too many players with the same name, because it does get very, very confusing. We have got a couple of players who at the end of next season will become homegrown at club. I think Jaramillo is one of them, who doesn't get anywhere near the team, so it's not much of a help. And I suspect he might actually be the only one who's only 18 months away from getting there. There are a couple more who'll be there the year after maybe. So eventually we will stumble into homegrown just by signing 18-year-olds and developing them and making them our own version of homegrown. But I'd like to think, and like I say, we're going to learn a lot today about how realistic this is. I'd like to think we win the Champions League in the next couple of years, the way we have on the other 4 continents. We don't typically have to wait 3, 4, 5 years once we've qualified for it, doing squad building nonsense. Although, to be fair, I think the squad building restrictions here in Europe are tougher than we've had anywhere else, or certainly seem to be hitting us a little bit harder. It's harder to be competitive in the Premier League whilst meeting the Champions League squad requirements. That's probably the easiest way to phrase it. Because obviously I think in Asia, we were only allowed 5 or 6 non-Japanese players, which that's obviously a much bigger restriction than we've got here. But we could win the Japanese league with a squad set up like that. If, as Wimbledon, we had to have a squad where we only had 5 or 6 non-English players, we wouldn't have won the Premier League. The only reason we've been able to do it is by collecting together this talent from all over the world. It's got us to the point where we can win the Premier League. We can put together a Premier League squad, but it might just take a few years for that to turn into a squad that can compete in the Champions League, because at the moment we've got 19 players registered in the Champions League. You pick up a couple of injuries and you end up, I mean, we literally just have the one injury, and look at the state of the bench. If we had 2 or 3 of our normal starters injured, we would be in serious bother. And obviously if that happens when you hit the knockout stages, that's going to be enough to finish you off, because in knockout football, one-off matches matter a lot more than they do in the Premier League. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how confident I'm feeling. We're 1-0 down today. I can see Bayern, who we're playing next, are 2-0 up away from home against PSV Eindhoven. But yeah, we might be a little early in our squad development. And then the question becomes, if we've got to wait 2 or 3 years for 18-year-olds to come in and then become homegrown at club, does someone like Mertens stick around at Wimbledon for the next 2 or 3 years of us getting knocked out in the last 16, the quarterfinal of the Champions League, whatever it might be? Or does he get frustrated and be like, no, I should be winning Champions Leagues by now. I'm one of the best players in the world. I should be playing for Real Madrid or Paris Saint-Germain or Liverpool or whoever else it might be, and getting myself the opportunity to win a Champions League. For goodness sake, he is spectacular. I mean, that might just be the best goal I've ever seen on Football Manager. He genuinely, he might be the best player we've ever had. Look at the state of that. Absolutely sensational from Mertens. And it's 1-1. And he is a one-man team. I mean, I am trying to find more of. That's why I'm signing all these Belgians. I'm hoping we discover a few more. Hoping one of them's his secret brother or something. But that was absolutely absurd, what we've just seen there from Mertens. It's a shame that he has emerged at the back end of the longest Football Manager cycle in history. So relatively few of you will be able to speak about him in longing terms in years down the line. He should already be in the same breath as the likes of Mitar Cernajaki, who I've literally got a Funko Pop of Mitar Cernajaki. He's up there with that kind of total channel legend. I just don't know if he's going to be remembered adequately, because there's so few people watching at this stage of Football Manager. But he deserves the recognition. He's just absurd. You saw it there. We're playing extra defenders now. This is what I mean. We're running out of bench players. We don't have any midfielders on the bench. Herrera's going to come on the left wing because Esqueda is got tired little legs. And then I guess we bring on yet another defender. Lira's going to come on and play centre back. Vidal Santos can go to left back. And then we've got a right winger and a striker as our final 2 substitutions that we can potentially make. But I don't necessarily want to change either of those positions because they've got two of our best players in Cost and Yang, although neither of them are having great games today. Herrera plays it back. It finds Mialescu. It's taken a huge deflection. I mean, we've taken a big chunk of luck there, but we'll take it. We don't care how it comes. If we're coming to presumably still to San Siro, they're rebuilding it, not moving, aren't they? Or if they rebuilt it now in real life. I think we're at the San Siro. No referee, according to the match stats, which is interesting. I'm surprised the game hasn't been more violent in these circumstances. But we've come to Italy, and fingers crossed we're going to go home with 3 points, which would be absolutely huge. It definitely puts us in the conversation, but it's a conversation with an asterisk. Like I was saying before, it's as an 11 on our day with our best players, we're good enough to compete with this kind of team. But like I say, if you get a couple of injuries, we're finished. And that just leaves us susceptible to that happening at any point. There you go. Carlos can come on for Cost as the final change. And we hope to see the game out. We've got 4 centre-backs on the pitch at the moment. You'd like to think that we should be able to see things out defensively. They have absolutely ruined Asghari there, though. That's such an easy goal. All the defenders we've got, and I think it's being disallowed for offside, hopefully. But it doesn't change the fact that Asghari got absolutely skinned at right back. And then Vidal Santos, who's a centre-back playing out of position, believe it or not, was out of position. But it doesn't matter. He was so out of position, he'd danced away from where he would have been playing people onside if he'd have been anywhere near the man he was supposed to be marking. Thankfully, he was not. That's Vidal Santos. Is that Vidal Santos there? No, I think that was Herrera, actually. I don't think Vidal Santos has got long hair. But fingers crossed we're holding on. It is a little bit of a mugging, but like I say, no referee. Who's going to stop us? And I think we might just be dragging ourselves over the finish line. One man single-handedly dragged us over that finish line. Lorenzo Mertens, greatest player in Football Manager YouTube history at this point, and he's 20 years old and we've had him a year. But no one's ever had better. I refuse to believe it. Who am I promising game time to? Yeah, he actually does deserve game time. Right, we'll play these couple of Premier League games off camera, and then we'll be back for Bayern Munich and hopefully pushing ourselves up into the top 8 in the Champions League. On the topic of us having some great players on this save as well, this is the best 50 players in the world. And look who's number 26, and our 28-year-old Chapeau Unlove, worth 146 to 174 million, wanted by Chelsea and Manchester City. Do we have to just throw everything we've got at him? I mean, we don't need him because we've got Yang. I don't know how he would compare to Yang. He's probably better, but we absolutely don't need him. But I don't really want them to have him. And it might be quite nice for him to join up with us. We haven't got the money. Or have we? I'm not saying Football Manager gets a little bit weird in the future, but remember our new Brazilian striker, Carlos? Well, he's just made his debut for Poland. Johnny Jackson getting involved with Wimbledon players again. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, he must have played in Poland for years. No, he's been playing in Brazil since he was 19. What? No, hold on. How old is he now? He's 25. So he was in Brazil since he was 15. He also doesn't speak any Polish. I don't understand. I guess he just must have Polish parents, grandparents. There's obviously some Polish in him somewhere. I mean, to be fair, his surname is Paradowski. So maybe a Polish dad? But yeah, Carlos has made his debut for Poland and scored on it. So we don't have a Brazilian striker. We have a Polish one. Football Manager's mad. Well, a couple of comfortable wins in our in-betweeny games gets us back into form in the Premier League and keeps us just about in touch with the title race. Still 7 points behind Newcastle, but it's early days. We're not going to worry too much yet. Also worth pointing out, Celestine Dillon is basically starting the Premier League games, and Mertens we're just saving for the Champions League at the moment. He's almost as good as Mertens. there is two of them, and we might have the other one as well. Belgium, absurd, absolutely absurd. Dylan's not even in our Champions League squad, so Mertens is definitely going to be back in today. After all, we know what he can do, even if he is having a slightly quieter season, certainly in the Premier League. Although he is saving his shine for the Champions League, where he's got 5 goals from 4 matches and a 7.82 average in the Champions League. So he's clearly decided he's going to perform at the top level and doesn't really need to bother out the Premier League anymore. Who cares? So this is the team. Drazic, he's back in goal, fit enough to play. So he comes straight back in. And then it's Lee, Vidal Santos, Schierling and Delos Santos, Coppens and Xian in midfield, Esqueda, Mertens and Yang behind Kost up front. And I think that is our entire Champions League squad all fit to play for this one, with the return of Drazic and Xian. And yeah, it's a worry that we still don't come close to filling a bench. But if we can beat Bayern Munich, we're going to be looking very, very good. They are one of the best teams in this. You can see they're up in 5th place at the moment. They're doing jolly nicely over in Germany, as they usually do. So a win here for us really does let the world know that we're ready for the Champions League. Again, with the big asterisk. We'll keep mentioning the asterisk because it's going to be my excuse when we don't win the Champions League this season, despite beating Bayern 5-0 like we're going to today, and showing that when we are on our game, there's no one on our level. We've got Mertens, nobody else has. I kind of don't want to win the Champions League this year because I want to manage him for a few more seasons. Selfishly, I want to see what he's like as a 23, 24-year-old. What's he going to be like as a 27-year-old? We're not going to know. I mean, we'll do a 5 years in the future at the end of the save as we normally do. I know I'm talking very confidently, but there's no guarantee we're going to win the Champions League within 5 years, but I think we probably will. I'm quite good at Football Manager, and Vidal Santos has just put us ahead against Bayern Munich. It's 1-0, and jolly nice that is as well. Priceless, as the advert around the stadium shows. Weirdly, on the replay, we've got a different advert. Oh no, it does switch. Because that would have taken away some of the illusion a little bit if the adverts are different on the replay to what they are on the original goal. But Football Manager, think of everything. Good work, Football Manager. Right. Can we have another goal, please? I mean, that was an iffy pass. No one really knew who was going for it. Coppens goes in the end. Kost dancing into the area. Yang pushes past him. And I mean, it's great work from Coppens and Kost, the two Belgians. But it's Yang who steps up to fire it home to put us 2-0 up against one of the best teams in the history of the world. But that's great from Coppens. That's why he's our captain. And this is good work from Kost because he didn't really have any support. He had 3 Bayern players on him. But he managed to keep hold of the ball, carve himself out a little bit of space, play it into the path of Yang. And this is the problem teams are going to have. You can't just focus on marking Mertens out of the game, because if you do, Kost's going to get space. Yang's going to get space. We're very good. And there is Yang in some space again, looking to turn his fullback inside and out the way we know he can. It's a big, deep cross from him. There's been a foul there, I think. Esqueda is rolling around like he's been absolutely battered off the ball. He's got to come off here. I mean, someone's done something to him there. Herrera's going to come on and play on the left-hand side because none of our backup left wingers are in the squad. So Herrera gets himself a little run out. Herrera, who I am actively now looking to sell in January, quite apart from anything else, to free up squad space so that we can get another one of those unregistered Champions League players into the squad. And Herrera doesn't really play anymore. Kost is our starting striker. We've got Polish international Carlos as backup. Herrera is useful, as I said he would be when we first signed him. Herrera is useful because he can play anywhere across the front three, and he's the only player we've got who we can just slot in any of those 3 positions. So he's a useful guy to have off the bench. But he's unlikely to ever be a starter, like a regular first choice start for us ever again. Whereas everyone else vying for those positions could potentially, even if they're not in the team now, could force their way in. Herrera's not going to. Herrera, I think, is 23, 24 now. He's as good as he's going to get. And that's a good Premier League striker, not a Champions League winning superstar like that man. What a pass from Mertens this time. He's been quiet in this match, but then just pops up with an absolute perfect pass for Kost. And unfortunately, he's not able to apply the finish, but the two Belgians combining beautifully again. They do now play up front and in behind the striker for Belgium as well. I checked on the last international break. So this is them now, club and country for the next 15 years. Mertens 10, Kost 9, just ripping apart the Champions League and international football as Wimbledon and Belgium dominate the world. That is terrible goalkeeping. I mean, we're going to let Drazic off because he's recovering from an injury, but that was poor. We're facing a Raumdeuter. It's not often you face a Raumdeuter, boys and girls. I mean, I'm using one myself in the league at the moment, but I've never seen the AI use one before, I don't think. Herrera's now picked up a knock as well, which is very much not ideal because we don't have any more left wingers in our Champions League squad. Right, Coppens forward to Kost, who probably is the guy we will put out there if we have to take Herrera off because he can play out wide on the other side. Mertens is in, and Mertens grabs his obligatory Champions League goal. I think that's 6 from 5 now in the Champions League from Mertens this season. He's going to be player of the tournament in his first ever Champions League season at 20 years old. And look at the space they've let him have. Bayern Munich learning that we're much better than them. I mean, that's what they're learning. Right, Carlos is going to come on. We're also going to take off these two in midfield and just shuffle bits around in there. And I think, you know what? We might leave Carlos out on the wing. Carlos is an unconvincing left winger. Kost is competent. We will put Kost out there. What about Yang? Can Yang play out there? Yang's also competent. What's happened here? Right, Kost is going to go out there. Carlos is going to go up front. And it'll be fine. Kost is so good that I'm sure he can play anywhere in the attack, whereas Carlos is much more of a specialist, brought in to be backup, and backup he will be. Right, De Los Santos is going to be the final change. We'll bring Asghari on again for him. We barely use in the league because, again, we've got more players ahead of him in the pecking order registered in our Premier League squad. The reason Asghari's in the Champions League squad is because he can play anywhere across the back four, which none of our other defenders can. So the flexibility that we get from the likes of him and the likes of Herrera are meaning that we're using them in the Champions League and they're not getting a look in the Premier League. We're almost playing two different teams because, like I say, Mertens isn't in that Premier League team. So it is. I mean, we've got some good players. Here's Mertens again, out to Lee, trying to play Kost in. Lee, all 5'7" of him, heading the ball back, and it's back with Lee for a third time. He now plays it all the way back to Santos, and now Mialescu to Kost. Kost plays it into Carlos, and that should have been 4. That should have been capping off one of the greatest nights in the history of Wimbledon, because we're destroying one of the Champions League old guard here. Mialescu plays it across to Yang. Carlos is in the middle this time, surely. I mean, he's had 2 chances to put the cherry on top this one. This is why he's not going to be a nailed-on starter for us ever. This is why he's playing for Poland and not Brazil. Right, Mialescu across to Feliao, who, remember, he's a centre-back who we're playing out of position in midfield and have done in both of these matches, but he's not a midfielder. We should probably trade him to play there because he's getting game time there in the Champions League, and now he's charging forward, playing like a midfielder. I mean, that pass was iffy, but he's got it back, and now it's with Mertens, and it's back with Feliao again for like the 4th time as part of this move. Might maybe give it to the literal playmaker, Mialescu, alongside them. Kost hits the post. Asghari with the... I mean, he's played it across there. He should have just hammered that. He had the opportunity there to take the glory for himself. Bayern Munich haven't had a shot on target in this match, by the way. I've just noticed on the match stats. It's Yang again. Yang's had a great game. And now there's Feliao again, who, I mean, I think he wants to do a football goal. Lee. Our defenders are just camping out on the edge of their area. They can't get the ball away. Look at us. We're Wimbledon against Bayern Munich, and look at how we're playing. Costa's in, and he should have scored. It should be 6 or 7. This is madness. I've never known us outplay it. I mean, we should win the Champions League this year. If that's how we can play against Bayern Munich, if we keep these players fit, we're winning the Champions League this year, which is alarming because it means I need to come up with a new save quite quickly. Oh, maybe we'll get a Football Manager announcement this week. That'd be handy. Yeah, I need to scratch around for some ideas. In the meantime, we'll probably be back in January for Paris Saint-Germain and Porto. That seems like a nice little Champions League doubleheader. We're obviously going to focus on the Champions League rather than the Premier League until we get knocked out of the Champions League and have to focus back in on the Premier League a bit more again to make sure that we qualify for the Champions League again. You know how this works by now, but if you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. Thank you very much to all of these beautiful Patreon folk, and thank you very much for watching.